Starting again. We're here at the Women in Comedy Festival at Improv Boston with Jane Morris, the founder of the
it's the Second City ETC in Chicago.
Is it? What did it say? Founder or creator? What was the? Is there a difference?
Well, I guess it's the same thing. There was a stage behind Second City that was being used by various other theater companies. And we went to the boss and said, why can't we? Were in the touring company back then. Second City was 6 actors on the main stage, and in order to be on the Second City main stage, which is why you're there, you had to wait for somebody to die or something. And there were 6 slots, and so we kind of said, well, there's that other space back there. Why can't we just do material? And the guy that runs Second City said, well, you know what? I can't compete with myself. I can't have a second theater in my own theater. And we went, why not? And so he was against it, and the other producer, Joyce Sloan, kind of was for it. And she actually did this sort of Sergeant Schultz thing. What was happening was we'd be out on the road and we'd write material, you know. Then we'd come back and when we wrote, what they did is they said, you can do, the road company did best of material. So we systematically took out the Second City scenes and put in our own scenes until we had a show. And then when we had a show, Joyce would wait until Bernie he would go on archaeological digs. But she wouldn't tell us. She would tell Ted Donner at the box office. Ted Donner would tell us, Bernie's out of town, dog. This time, send your press release. And she would tell him, they have to get a press release in by this time. They have to do this, they have to do that. And we opened the show and we got rave reviews. And now the ETC is 25 years old.
Well, what year was it?
It would have been 1983 when we started, and I was actually pregnant when we began, and my son is 26 now. So,
do you remember that first show, the reaction that you got?
Oh, it was huge! It was huge. In the middle of it all, I remember, we went from playing with crowds of 13 to 25 to packed houses. It was a wonderful stage. It was a thrust, real deep thrust. One of the cast members got married, and we went to the wedding, and we barely made it back to the showtime because the producer wanted to get cake, and she was waiting for the cake, and we're like, we can't. So we fly back down to Chicago, and as we get out of the car, just run backstage to start the show, we see this guy with this giant head of white hair, and we all went, oh, look, Phil Donahue's here. Well, it was Phil Donahue, and Marlo. And they came. So all of a sudden, we were on the map, and our second show was better than our first show, and our third show was better than our second and first show. Off it went. So.
And now that stage is a tradition in itself.
It is. It's a tradition itself, and part of the tradition is that because it literally is that much farther for the producers to walk, because you have to walk from the office to back there, you get left alone. And if you got a good cast and a good director, you can really put up a great show, right? So. Jeff Michalski directed a lot of the shows. That's my husband. And I directed the last show there of being in there. And that's why it was called Channel This, and it was 4 women and 3 men. Second City always had 4 men and 2 women. So then we had 4 men and 3 women, and then I switched the thing. And everybody bitched him on and said, and I said to the guys, are you kidding? You'll get to be in every scene because you have to be everything now. There's only 3 of you. And they caught on to that really quick, and it went really well. And then they were going to bring that show out to LA, and that's how, so we ended up in LA with Second City when they opened up there. And my husband created the workshop program at Second City in LA. He was one of the people that created it in Chicago. And then he came out here and they had to put the whole thing together. So. Now we have a place called the Fanatic Salon in LA, in Culver City, which is a beautiful small theater. And the Alger Review that's what we're doing, plays there once a month.
And do you produce other shows there?
I do. I have my own show called All These Things Are True, but some of them didn't happen, which is a kind of a one-woman show, except it's with my partner in the show is Fred Kaz, who was the musical director at Second City for 35 years, world-class jazz musician. And he wrote songs for my work, and so we do the show together.
How would the shows that you put on there, how would they differ from Second City? Would you draw a straight line from one to the other?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't at all. Most of it, we do. First of all, our theater's kind of like Brigadoon. We're open if somebody wants to do something, and there's a lot. We do a lot of improvisation. We do the acoustics are great, so we do music. We've done spoken word and poetry and plays. We've done some plays, so whatever people want to do is what we do. So there's not a company there. There's not a, you know what I mean? There's no.
And how did the all-girl review come together?
Well, when we first moved out here, I've actually opened several comedy theaters. I had a comedy theater in Chicago. That's how Second City found me. And then when we got to LA, and Second City was kind of a nightmare in hell, frankly. And it closed really quickly as a result. The stage itself, the workshop program is still going on. We founded a place called Upfront Comedy. So that's now my third theater that I've done. And then we did, after Upfront, there was a second Upfront because of an earthquake, and then we had another place called The Underground. And during all of that, everybody that came out from Chicago, from Second City, came to our place. So we actually had people that came to our place before they went wherever they were living. And so one of my friends called me the Harriet Tubman of comedy. So everybody goes there. Well, we used to do these giant alumni jams. And it was everybody. Ryan Stiles and Mike. Did Mike Myers play with us? No, he doesn't. Lots of people that you would know played with us. Jim Belushi played with us. We had all the Second City alumni come out and playing with us. So cut to way later, now I have this little theater, and I thought it would be fun to do an alumni jam with all women. And what we used to do at the alumni jams, all these great players, would be 35 people, we'd all take a number. So you're in group 1, group 2, group 3, right? So I thought if I got a bunch of women together and they all took a number and then we just do a night of women improvising, that would be really fun. But what happened was, this group of people showed up, and then they just kind of kept showing up. And I put in the front of the show solo work, you know, by other great, hilarious people that are around the city. And the show just became really like a review where we have about a half an hour of individual solo pieces that are by amazing, wonderful people. And a half hour of improv, and it was always the same 6 girls. And so here we are in Boston now. We've been doing it for 3 years, so.
And people know the names that came from Second City. You always hear whenever somebody writes about them, you go back to from Joan Rivers,
Elaine
Mike
May,
Myers.
Mike Nichols.
Yeah.
You go to Chris Farley. You go to Steve Colbert. My husband was his first director. Actually gave him a shout out in his show recently as that.
Just a lot of you know, Avery Schreiber coming back.
Both the Steve Colbert and Steve
Carell, who's from this area.
were in that company, and Amy Sedaris was in that company. So we had gone by the time Tina Fey came out. That was like right after us.
You hear all the names, but what is it about Second City that produces all of these people? What is it that? It's the training is about idea, and you service the scene first. And when you service the scene, you protect your fellow actors. And when you do that, you get really good. But I think the thing that really sets it up is the idea that you're always playing it. We used to play right out of the newspaper. So, you know, it was always about, or is it us? Okay. So it was really about the training and what you learn there. So you end up with some really, really great players, and they weed them out. Have you gotten to see anybody, any of the other shows or acts so far?
No, I haven't. I've just stuck my head in. I taught a workshop. The players were really good, and I just peeked in up there earlier. So I hope to see something before I.
Well, you're on in shortly, I guess. So thank you for taking the time to speak with me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, my pleasure, and good luck with your blog. I'm a blogger myself.
Oh, you want to give the URL for you?
I can't. I'm an anonymous. I'm a character that people will think I am that character, so I can't go on my cover.
Oh well. Now we've given people something to search for.
Oh, yeah.